Hello everybody and welcome to the final episode in the AorbTech Pandas series. Today we're going to be taking a look at the melt function. We're going to be going through ID vars, value vars, var name, and value name. So what does the melt function do? In the simplest terms possible, what it does is it takes a wide format data set such as this, where we have lots and lots of columns, and it converts it into a long format data set. So it converts it to something more like this, and you would expand this out. So we have just a few columns and then a lot of rows, which can sometimes make it easier to look at our data and understand our data. And let's start as always by importing pandas and our data sets, and let's take a look at our data sets. So we have one named visits, which looks like this. As you can see, there's a bunch of different columns here. This is for our website, so we have the home page, the about page, contact, products, and blog. And we have a number of dates here, ranging from the 21st of February to the 25th. And we have the number of visits on each of those days for each of these different parts of the website, each of these websites. And then we also have scores, and this is what it looks like. So we have a number of subjects here as the columns: math, science, history, English, and music. And we have a number of students and their scores. So we have Alice, Brian, and Clara. So let's see what happens when we melt these data sets. Now we're going to get something very long. So we're going to take visit.melt. And as I said, it's going to be very, very long. So if I print this out, it should take up a whole bunch of space. There we go, look at all those entries. And so what it's done is it's split our data into variable value pairs. And what does that mean? Well, as we can see here, we have the variables on the left and their corresponding values on the right. So if we go through these columns, just to try to make sense of this, we can see we have a variable date, or a column date. When I'm referring to a variable, in this case, I'm talking about the columns. So we have date, and for each of the rows in that column, we have, well, a date. And so it looks at all of those entries, and as you can see, we have from 21 to 25, just as we do in the dates column. Let's look at the home variable, or the home column. We have 120, 95, 110, 130, and 100. And we also have that here. So as you can see, we have the variable on the left and then the value on the right. So essentially, it's looking at each one of these entries. It's telling us which variable is connected to it and which value is connected to it. And we can also do the same with our scores dataset. So scores.melt. Once again, we're going to get something very long. So here we have all the relationships between the variables and their respective values. So for each student, this is explaining basically all of our students that we have. So we have a student called Alice, a student called Brian, and a student called Clara. And we have a maths score called 78, 85, and 92. And you'll notice that we lose the connection between each of these. It's not entirely possible to discern whose maths score this is, 78. But if we go up to our original data set here, we can see that 78 actually belongs to Alice. So it does go in the same order in this case, but in most cases it would be quite difficult to tell. And you can also use a different notation for this. We're just going to cover this quickly. Pandas.melt, and then you can put in the data set here. So let's just do it with scores. So there's a different notation there. We can write that down. There we go. So if we go back to the diagram, you'll notice that we have to choose a column here, which we will use as the reference point. And this is called the ID variable, the ID var. And so we're going to try this out on scores. So we'll use scores.melt, and then we'll put in ID vars equals, and then we'll put in, let's say, student. And let's see what that does to our data set. So now we have an additional column. And this is the ID column, the ID variable. And what it's doing essentially is it's saying in terms of each student, right? What are the variable value connections, or the variable value pairs that we can draw from each student. So remember how I said earlier that it was difficult to tell the context between which of these scores belongs to who? Well, now we can say that for Alice, there is a math score of 78. Alice also has a science score of 82 and a history score of 75, for example. So this makes it much easier for us to be able to draw conclusions based on each of these students. We have just a direct connection between each of these variables and their values. So for example, we can say Clara has a maths score of 92, right? So it's very direct. It's student has a score of so-and-so. And we can do the same with our other data set. Visit, so to the website, so visits.melt, and we'll say id var equals, and let's say we want to take a look at this in terms of, let's see here, in terms of the date. There we go. So for each date, we have a part of the site or a page and the number of visits that page got. So on the 21st, the homepage got 120 visits. On the 22nd, the homepage got 95 visits. On the 23rd, the contact page got 15 visits. And there we go. So we can draw direct conclusions from this. Now, looking at each of these, we can tell clearly that the variable here is just the subject, right? So for each of these, we have maths, we have science, history, English, and music. So these are all the subjects, right? And these values here, these are the scores. So what if we want to rename these columns here so that's more easily represented? Well, we can use var name and value name. So I'll just put in scores here, .melt, and I'll add a var name equals, and I'll set the variable name to subject. Now if we take a look at that, we see that this column here has the variable column name that it used to be replaced with subject. And I can actually copy this code, bring it over here, and I can also change the value name. So I can set value name to score, because there's a score for each subject. And now these make a lot more sense. So we have student column over here, the subject, and the score that they received. And just to practice, let's also do this with the visits data set. So we'll go into var name, and let's take a look here. So each of these is a different page in the site, right? So we have the dates, and we have different pages, and the number of visits, okay? So we're going to change the variable name to page. Let's see what that looks like. So now this column has been renamed, but we still need to rename the value column. So we'll copy this code, we'll bring it down here, and we'll add the argument value name, or val name. Oh, sorry, value name. And we'll change it to visits. There we go. Or you can also change it to hits if you prefer that terminology. So we have a date, we have the page, and we have the number of visits. So it makes it much easier now. We can look at these and we know exactly what each of these columns means. And with the end of this episode comes the end of our Pandas course. We hope that you enjoyed, and if you liked this video, then make sure that you like it on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to see more of our videos when they come out, you can hit that bell icon to notify you when they do. Please share with a friend to spread news of our channel. If you would like to see the source code, as always, it's available in the description, or our website, which is also available in the description. If you would like to check out our other series, make sure to do so at our channel. We have a Python series, a NumPy series, and a few upcoming series. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below and we'll be more than happy to answer them. For now, that's all. Have a lovely day and goodbye.